Good afternoon, Chair Umberg, Chair Mainshine, members of the Senate and Assembly Judiciary Committees. My name is Arnie Sowell, and I am a public, non-lawyer appointee of the State Senate to the State Bar Board of Trustees. In my day job, I run Next Gen Policy, an equity and justice-focused nonprofit organization. And prior to joining Next Gen, I spent almost 2 decades in this building as the policy director for 5 speakers. I was appointed to the State Bar about 2 years ago and currently serve as the chair of the Finance Committee. Additionally, along with trustees Shelby and Chin, I serve on the board's 3-member ad hoc commission on oversight and accountability reforms. I just want to thank the chairs, the members, and the staff for holding this joint oversight hearing and engaging with the board, our staff, and other experts to examine the State Bar's operational, ethical, and governance issues in light of Girardi, as well as other persistent shortcomings. While no entity likes to be hauled in front of the legislature for public scrutiny, I truly appreciate the opportunity to talk about the commitment of the board to public protection and the work of the ad hoc committee. Honestly, reading the litany of the bar's past problems and failures as outlined in the committee analysis still shocks me, even though I have lived with them for 2 years. They are hard to stomach, and they haunt every member of the Board of Trustees. Our history is deeply troubling, and our issues have been many. The May report unearthed deep fissures of corruption that are diametrically at odds with the board's mission of public protection. And although it really doesn't matter, the current Board of Trustees inherited many of these issues, took proactive actions to uncover many others, and under prior leadership was provided advice that self-inflicted other wounds. Nevertheless, I say to you, we own our failings to you, our stakeholders, and the public. Though we must own our flawed history, our future does not have to be defined by it. And the current board, and there are 6 members of the board here today, are united and unwavering in our commitment to right these wrongs, change our culture, restore your trust, and unequivocally adhere to our mission of public protection. To that end, here's what we've done, and here's what we're doing, and some of this you've already heard. Last December, we established a special committee, the 3-member ad hoc committee on oversight and accountability reforms. This committee is charged with making recommendations to the full board on structural and other reforms to improve oversight, transparency, accountability in the discipline system, and recommend definitive actions to respond to the May report findings about undue influence. We held our first meeting in late December, a couple weeks after our formation, and have been meeting roughly once every 3 weeks ever since. Many, many hours of staff and board time have gone into this work, and over the course of numerous committee meetings and board meetings, we have considered a long list of reform proposals. As a matter of fact, many of the reform proposals that the ad hoc committee has deliberated and recommended to the full board mirror recommendations delineated in your committee analysis. Last week, the full board adopted a comprehensive list of ad hoc committee recommendations, specifically to explore the creation of an inspector general, increase conflict of interest policies and requirements for board members and staff, initiate conversations about becoming a part of the state budget process, improve the whistleblower protection process, offer statutory changes to clarify public disclosure and transparency responsibilities, establish a 2-year term for the board chair, and advance attorney misconduct reporting requirements to the Supreme Court. My ad hoc committee colleagues will comment in more detail on these recommendations, but we have not concluded our work, and there is still a lot more that we plan on evaluating and moving forward. Just on the Inspector General concept, clearly the board believes that the office of the Chief Trial Counsel should be retained at the State Bar. However, the committee deliberated whether the board had sufficient insight into and oversight of the discipline system. And as part of our deliberations, we heard from the Inspector General of the California Prison System, as well as the head of the Office of Ethics, Compliance, and Audit Services at the UC Office of the President. We concluded that the board should establish an independent Inspector General, responsible for monitoring, auditing, and making recommendations regarding the performance of the various investigative and prosecutorial functions of the bar. Independence is a critical aspect of the Inspector General, and given the various appointing authorities to the board, I believe, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the full board, that it should not report to a single entity. It should be a panel. I look forward to discussing the Inspector General reporting structure that will an Inspector General reporting structure that would engender the trust and confidence of the legislature at the appropriate time. I know we've been here for a while and we're running over time, but in the African American church tradition, I am coming to my close. But as the board's finance chair, I must comment on our fiscal situation. Simply put, we are in dire budget straits. We have implemented a hiring freeze, forgone much-needed IT upgrades, met our labor contract requirements, raised fees, voted to sell the San Francisco building, and still find ourselves with a deficit looming and unable to fund the fundamentals necessary to improve our discipline system and implement other important fundamental programs. I think we can all agree that simply throwing more money at the board without corresponding reforms or instituting reforms without corresponding means to fund the fundamentals is not a prudent way to proceed. Let's work together to establish the requisite policy and operational reforms needed, but also to determine the resource levels required to conduct the fundamental business of the State Bar. We stand ready to have that conversation. One of the important lessons I learned from my tenure here in the state capitol, and there were many, is that the most meaningful and impactful policy making occurs when key stakeholders are at the table. And I just want to say thanks again to the chair, the chairs, members, and staff for allowing the board and its staff to be at the table today. We look forward to working together to institute the reforms necessary to improve oversight of our discipline system and restore the trust and confidence of this body in the State Bar Board of Trustees. As I sat in the audience just very quickly, listening to the line of questioning from Chair Umberg and other members on issues of follow-up and accountability, I couldn't help but think, and I think I have this correct, that the CPUC, under state law, is required to report annually to the legislature in a joint public hearing. It seems like that would be a reasonable way to ensure that you're getting the accountability and the follow-up that you need. And finally, I would also like to thank Pro Tem Atkins for appointing me and Greg Knoll to the State Bar and believing that our skill sets could be of value in helping to initiate reforms and deliver on the bar's mission of public protection. And I'll now hand it over to my colleague, Haylin Chin.